Basketball fans, welcome back. So the classification games came to a close yesterday, and the brackets already set, and the first to eighth seed have been confirmed. So Al Ittihad took their spot at the first seed, and Al Ahly SC, the Al Ahly Tripoli team, took the second seed. US Monastir third seed, Rivers Hoopers fourth, APR fifth, Petro sixth, Crew Star seven, and FUS Rabat eight. So the brackets already set, and today the first quarter of games are going to be tipping off, and we'll be having the Al Ittihad versus FS Rabat matchup for the first and eighth seed, then Al Al Tripoli versus Creole Star. So I'll be looking forward to those games. But in this game, I'll be focusing on Petro de Luanda's matchup against APR in the classification game. So I couldn't help but notice Petro de Luanda's poor performance yesterday, and I feel like they deliberately tanked. I'm not sure, I can't say in full confidence they tanked this game uh, because they didn't want to play against the Rivers Hoopers in the first round. But I mean, all signs just pointed to that because Petro de Luanda, they're the defending champions. They're not a team that backs down to anyone. But the way they got brutalized yesterday is something that appeared suspect. Looks like they didn't want to match up against the Rivers Hoopers. I mean, that is something that is crazy. So in the first round, Petro de Luanda is going to match up against US Monastir, and I'll also go ahead and cover those games when they tip off. So APR versus Petro de Luanda. So in my mind, I felt like this game will be very close, but it wasn't the case. And APR ended up dominating Petro de Luanda. 75-57 was the final score. So we saw Nuni Omot have his debut a match in the APR squad, and he put up decent numbers. He had 15 points, 6 rebounds, 3 assists. He was just doing his own thing in there. And Aliou Diar, he came back to his own, and he had a strong double double of 19 points and 16 boards. So I was very excited to see Aliou Diar back, and he wasn't healthy after that MBB matchup in the Nile Conference in the second one, where APR subsequently lost 3 games straight. Then they won their last game against the Nerb Thunder. So seeing Alodiar back in full strength and having that 2 week rest period has really helped the APR team have some strength in their front court and have some versatility. Yes, they added Nuni Omot for their all-in run. So I believe they have a chance. They always have a chance to go ahead and do the unthinkable. So this APR side, they didn't have the best Nile conference, especially with Aludiara being injured. But this one, they have what it takes because shooting wise, they were exemplary. They shot 47% on 2 point field goals. They didn't have a very good field goal percentage because they shot 39%. That is below average. But given the type of defense that they were up against, Petro de Luanda, they posed a very, very huge threat. And Petro de Luanda, yes, they had a few signings in there. Some Kelosele, he made his debut with the Petro de Luanda. He had a quiet 10 points in there, but you could see even with Petro de Luanda, the way the game started very well, kind of I couldn't help but notice they kind of tanked in this one, and it's like they didn't want to compete in the second, and that's the reason as to why they lead balloon because there are a couple of stretches of possessions where they were turning over the ball, they couldn't go ahead and score, and they couldn't even defend the ball well, so that was the big problem. But all in all, they're not out because they're going to match up against US Monastir. So yeah, and I'm gonna go and address that later in the video. So APR led in majority of the statistics, especially shooting wise. They were very good at it. I didn't see any issues with their offense, especially with the productivity of an Alodiar. That is their best option. And also Yusuf Endoy, he coming to his own. I was questioning Yusuf Endoy's, motor, especially in the games that I've seen him play for APR. And he showed me some flashes of his back in the day when he played for Senegal. And I can't say I'm too confident, but hey, two different teams have different structures the way they operate. But all in all, APR are able to get the job done. They out rebounded Petro de Luanda, something I didn't expect to happen. Both teams were tied in assists, and APR had 11 steals in this one. So this was crazy. and Petro had 3 blocks. So Petro were really struggling, and I couldn't help to say that this game they tanked. I don't think they wanted to match up against the Rivers Hoopers. I don't know what the logic was, but they ended up tanking in this one, and I was closely monitoring their performance because I expected at least Petro to have some resistance to APR, something that we've seen, especially in the tough Sahara Conference. They finished with a 3-3 record and the second in the Sahara Conference. So I was expecting a team that played in the most balanced conference to put up a fight against APR team. Yes, they had similar records, but the Sahara Conference was very difficult. But APR, I can say they looked human in the Nile Conference. This time, they look like a different beast, and there's a high likelihood Petro Delonda might not make it, and I don't think it's I'm going to overstretch or I'm reaching, but I'm not sure with their type style of play because even the guys that you expect to go ahead and do something, they couldn't do it. So Patrick Garner, he was the guy that led Petro de Luanda in scoring. Anyway, so Patrick Garner for Petro de Luanda, he had 13 points. I mean, that was a game low. I mean, he led in scoring with only 13 points. So that goes to show you like the lack of productivity there. Some Kilosela 10, then Patrick Garner, he had a double-double of his own, but it was not as strong a double-double as the way Aludiara was getting to his shots. So he had 10 boards in there. Then Yannick Moreira is another guy who was very quiet. Then Kendrick John Ray, he only had 5 assists. So Solo Diabate was very quiet in this one. I'm not sure what's going on with that Petro de Luanda side. They don't look as confident as they should be. And I don't know if it's the break or it's like the change in like the atmosphere because Petro de Luanda are a team that they're the defending champions. I know, they're missing the productivity of Carlos Moraes and a few roster changes there. Nicolas Force is not in the mix, a guy that was very vital down the stretch. But looking at how these guys played, not the best performance at all. And this one raised a lot of eyebrows, especially when I saw them getting limited to 57 points. I must say it's one mostly in part their defense, or their offense, not defense, their offense and the defense for APR, and two, maybe they tanked in this one, because this is not how a defending champions should look like, especially when they're trying to go back to back. And there's a high likelihood that this team doesn't want to go back to back. And even looking at the squad that they have, I don't think that they have any championship identity in this one. And there's a high likelihood that they're gonna fall off early. And considering the fact that the only two sub-Saharan African teams are APR and Petro de Luanda, it's a tough one. It's a tough one. So Petro, I mean, I really like this team, but man, they had a very very abysmal performance. Yannick Moreira only had 2 points. He had 2 points, 5 rebounds, 1 assist. I mean, he was horrendous. Solo Diabate, very unacceptable. You can't have 3 points, 1 of 7 shooting, 0 for 3 from downtown, and you expect to dominate. And only one field goal made and one free throw. So it's a sad situation all around, and it's not something that should be encouraged. I mean, Sam Kelosele was dumb. It was a dumpster fire in 25 minutes of play. 10 points, 4 of 11 shooting. I mean, that is not good enough. So somebody who was able to carry the Petro de Luanda team, uh, you know, in scoring in his debut, that was something that I couldn't get it because the other guys who are there on the roster, a guy like Chile Danda only played 5 minutes. Somebody who have put like a lot of I put a lot of stock in his name, especially he plays for Angola. And in this poor game, because see Sam Kilosele in his debut, he was carrying the scoring. And Sam Kilosele, he was very vital in, especially in Cape Town Tigers run last year, and he was great. So this was a very very poor performance, and I can't help but notice this guy's tanked in this one. Maybe they didn't want to match up against the Rivers Hoopers, but hey, it is what it is. So Nuni Omot and Alu Diarra were the main guys for the APR side, and they were the only guys who got double digits even with the heavy minutes that they played. Yusuf Endoy, man, I saw some flashes of like him playing well, especially going back to the way he plays for Senegal. But man, looking at his performance, it was atrocious, especially. shooting from the field was 2 of 6. The only significant statistic he got was from the free throw line because it was 4 of 6 from the line. He went to the line so many times, similar to Obadiah Noel. And yeah, I mean, his points were very vital, especially his rebounding was great. But especially when it came to like scoring second chance points, there were flashes, so some moments that I saw, him going back, turning back the clock. But there are others you could see his game was a bit predictable, and man, he just looked heavy. He didn't look like somebody who is good at his role at the front court. So yeah, I'm not sure how they're gonna fix that, but at least APR have their player in Aludiar who can be able to do the unthinkable in there. So it is what it is. So this matchup, I didn't read too much into it because it was a mid-tier clash, and APR are gonna match up against the Rivers Hoopers, and Petro are gonna match up against the US Monastir team. So yeah, I mean, I really feel Petro de Luanda don't have their edge in this postseason, especially when they had this poor performance in front of 4,190. This was these games in South Africa. They just hit different because the attendance, even for the first game, is it's high stakes every single time, especially in the quarterfinals where you're going to see the top seeded teams. You're going to have the Creole Star matchup. We're going to have the Creole Star matchup, and that is actually something that I'm actually waiting for against the Al Ahly Tripoli. And both teams have history, especially looking at the Almeida brothers. Joel Almeida played for Creole Star, and Ivan Almeida played for Al Ahly FC in Road to BAL. So it was kind of poetic them playing together in the actual BAL and them having to team up so that they can take apart Al Tripoli. So that's special. Then Al Ittihad versus FS Rabat. So fast and eight versus 2 and 7. So this is going to be the first batch of games today, and I'll also be covering them. But back to the performance that we saw, the abysmal performance that we saw Petro de Londa and APR. I mean, I did not expect this from Petro, just like I mentioned earlier. So the Petro were out rebounded. They trailed in steals, and they had 19 turnovers in this one. So the only statistic that they were able to like capture was capitalizing on points on turnovers, bench points. They had very good bench productivity, but it wasn't enough because they were scoring points when even the team was down bad. So yeah, I mean that was sad. I did not expect this team. I expect such performances to come from like weak teams, but not Petro de Luanda. I did not expect that at all. But hey, this is what it is. Maybe they're going to change up in the quarterfinals because who knows? I mean, anything can happen right now in the quarterfinals, and even the best team, especially if I reference BAL season 4, like the FS Rabat, they were the best team in the Kalahari Conference. That time it was in South Africa. This time it was Morocco. But last year they were very good, but they got stopped in the quarterfinals in the first round. So yeah, I mean it gets brutal. It gets brutal. So I'm enjoying this, and I'm going to be going ahead and releasing videos talking about this. But I'm going to be monitoring these things, these games, closely, because it's very important to understand where these teams rank in the continent, because the defending champions, Petro de Luanda, don't look the same. They are going to match up against US Monastir, and that US Monastir versus Petro de Luanda, there's always a beef there because in BAL season 2, US Monastir matched up against Petro de Luanda, and US Monastir were able to beat Petro de Luanda in the finals. And ever since then, their matchups have been different. Every single time these two teams meet, it's fireworks. And these two teams met twice in the Sahara Conference. So this is the third time they're going to meet in BAL season 5. So the winner here is going to go to the semifinals. And if they make it to the end of the quarterfinals first, before the quarterfinals, semifinals, then finals. So I mean, it's a crazy one. So winner here goes to the semis, and I don't know. There's no clear favorites because Petro they looked against APR. I don't know. It didn't look the same to me, and hopefully they can want to change up a few things. Okay, I'm confident. I like the Petro de Luanda team, but they look far removed from the team that won the championship. And I can even say the same thing to US Monastir, because even with them winning the Sahara Conference, it was all about them being a well coached team. They didn't have the star power like that. They didn't have, very, very big name players in there, but they're able to get the job done. It was all about coaching in there. So they're able to do the unthinkable in the Sahara Conference, especially winning the Sahara Conference. I didn't put them as a team that could win the Sahara Conference, especially when I knew that Ville Dakar were there and they had all the stars that I've been following. But hey, I didn't even make it out to Sahara Conference. They're not even in the BAL playoffs. So your Monster Petro is going to be a fireworks matchup. Then on the other bracket, APR versus Rivers Hoopers. So this matchup will be fire, and you're going to see a mixture of size, outside shooting, threes, defense, everything. We have everything in there, and I feel like the APR team are the strongest when they have Aludiara in there. Without Aludiara, this team fumbles, and the Rivers Hoopers are not. No, they're not a weak team like that, because even despite like their campaign in the Kalari conference, it didn't look the most dominant. Even though they had a 4-2 record, they're still not able to beat Alitia, a team that was always getting a one up on them. And River Supers were not able to beat an elite team. So they had a 4-2 record. Then right now you're seeing APR with their, resurgence coming back. They were now the number 2 seed in the Nile Conference. So I'm waiting on this matchup with bated breath, because I know it's going to be difficult. But all in all, the best team will make it to the semifinals, and all will be decided. So looking at even the other side, the games that are happening today, I will also go ahead and talk about them. But man, this is just going to be fire. I can't wait. I can't wait. I know the game is about to tip off in about an hour from the time this video is being recorded for the first two games of the quarterfinals. I will also talk about them as well. So this is it. So do drop me your comments down in the comment section down below. I mean, I'll be keeping you in the loop on what is going on, especially when it comes to BAL. And I'm gonna see you guys in the next one. Peace out.